This is the LifeBlood podcast. Join us on our journey to inspiration.
This is as real as it gets, man.
Yeah, it's a new intro.
I like it. I like it. I like the last one too.
This, my brother actually made this song.
Question of the heart.
His brother's
Legit. I don't know if we can do something like that.
It's pretty. It's not that hard to make a nice intro like that.
Welcome, everybody, to the LifeBlood podcast. Today we have Tim and Adam, both firefighters for a department.
Both medics.
Both paramedics, sleep deprivation, muscle and fitness, snowboarding.
Family.
These guys got a ton of stuff to talk about.
Combined together, we're almost like one really cool person.
It's very true. Starting out today with our quote. Today our quote is, "Impossible is nothing." So if you think about it, we put limitations on ourselves, but impossibility is nothing. Impossible has the word possible in it. That's just a kind of a play with words, but at the same time, you know, it's only impossible until somebody does it. Until somebody climbs that mountain, then everyone else thinks, all right, then it is possible.
A lot of things were impossible 100 years ago, and now everybody's doing it. Like, it was impossible to hold the whole computer inside something that's 4 inches wide. But now it's possible.
Yeah. Even with marathons and everything like that, we are improving as a species, I believe. And I like that. So impossibility doesn't really mean that much.
I think it would be kind of cool to take someone from like 100 years ago and just bring them here and go, hey, what do you think? And just watch their minds.
They'd be terrified. There was a thing I read about the amount of peripheral noise, just white noise, that we have nowadays compared to in like the 1800s. If you took somebody from back then and brought them now, they would just be terrified by just the amount of noise going on. No joke.
Yeah, that's crazy.
When you figure freeways, airplanes, TVs, all the extra stuff you have turned on, I mean, it's gonna
they had nothing like that. They didn't even have TV and not, like,
Just to hand them an iPhone and go, all the information in the world is literally right here. It's right here in your fingertips. This little thing right here holds everything you can ever want to know. My wife hates it because we'll be talking about something and I'll be like, oh, she'll be like, well, we don't know that. Okay, well, here, I'll Google it for you.
We'll Google it.
I always do that too. Like, she's like, oh, what's that? I'm like, oh, Google.
Yeah.
Google. It does everything.
But I really don't like that about the noise, and even with the light. We have so much light pollution now and sound pollution that it's like we can't see the sky anymore. There's about 2 stars when you look up in the sky, and then everywhere you go, every room you walk into, like if it's silent, people like just feel awkward. There's any kind of silence, you know, we have to say.
We were talking about that the other day, though. I mean, you kind of have to, like, you know, a lot of people view being alone and, you know, loneliness is a bad thing, but it's only that if you're not comfortable with yourself. I mean, if you're okay with yourself, you know, time by yourself is beneficial. I was talking about how many countless hours I spent down working on an old sailboat, like 6-7 hours at a time, just standing and thinking about stuff, listening to, you know, Pink Floyd on Pandora. You know, go down the rabbit hole, and who knows what you're gonna end up thinking about. You know,
you
start on one thing,
though, man. Especially in the profession that we're in. You know, I mean, it's like all day for days on end. It's just
endless stimulus.
Yeah, you were just on for 3 days, and I had like what? How many guys are there stationed? 6 guys, at least 5.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, I mean, you don't get really time to just sort of unplug. So it's like if you go home and there's just nothing, just silence. It's like you need it.
Yeah.
I love going home when there's absolutely nothing, or my daughter takes a nap.
Oh, nap time is the best.
You feel like you're self-reflect.
You're getting away with something.
But people, like, they feel the need, like, oh, I need to do something. I need to fill my schedule, so I'm important.
People need to slow down.
Yes.
Taking time.
The hustle and bustle.
I like meditation. Do you guys meditate?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, as much as I'd like to. I mean, again, you were talking about being family men. It's like, you know,
yeah.
Try to get back into more of that. You know, sit, just find a comfortable spot. The baby comes over and start poking me in the eye or something. Oh my God. It's not conducive to such.
Put Frozen on.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk about where you guys at, how you guys got there, and just a little brief backstory to both of you guys.
I want to hear Adam's.
Adam, let's hear yours.
I mean, starting when? I mean, like.
Now
or when it matters, like teenage or
like high school, before high school, when you really like
Gosh, I mean,
started everything.
I was talking to Tim. I was kind of like, that seems like 2 lifetimes. I feel like I've been 2 different people at least so far. I mean, am I going to be a third? I don't know. But yeah, teenage years. I mean, I grew up in Brea, California, just suburb of North Orange County. Went to Brea into high school. Played soccer. I was heavy into soccer as a young guy, obsessively so. I would practice, 5-6 hours a day, and that was kind of. There was some goods to that. There's some bads to that. I missed out on some things, but I definitely learned dedication. I mean, that's kind of like you're talking about. Impossible is nothing. I mean, it all kind of depends on how much you want to apply yourself to something. I mean, some people, I think it's just a matter of they don't want to put everything they have towards something. They have that limit of like, well, this is as much as I want to give and see what I can get out of it. I mean, if you actually take every minute you have and put it towards a goal, and yeah, you'll get there. I mean, we were, CIF champs my senior year. That was a huge learning experience too.
What division were you guys in?
We were Division 3, but we took down 4 or 5 D1 teams.
Nice. Division 3 soccer out here is crazy, I think, because I played soccer in high school, and I was like, we were Division 6 or something like that, and we were playing against D3 schools in some of the playoffs, or in like the exhibition games before the playoffs, before the season even started, and they're outrageously good.
Well, I mean, it's all just, kind of your frame of reference. I mean, we were like middle of the pack D3. I mean, we were playing D1 teams that had, guys that got cut from their team that would have been, top starters on ours. But yeah, you see from there, I mean, yeah, I learned some leadership stuff there, and we had a successful season that nobody really thought we should. That we were picked to be one of the worst teams ever and just crushed it. So that was cool. Took from that, and then I was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. Looked into like EMT, got my EMT, and kind of worked around the fire department, figured out if I wanted to do that. Worked interactively with the department I'm at now. Did that for 3 years. Started off a lot of sleepless nights, like you guys are doing now. Went back to Paramedic School on my own, paid for that, graduated that, and worked as a...
Tell them where you went to school.
Mount San Antonio College.
Yeah. One of the toughest programs in the state.
Biggest commuter college in California. Like 60,000 students, no dorms, no
Wow.
sororities.
You went through Steve Williams' program, dude. That's nothing to slough off, man. That's a tough...
Yeah, from what I've heard, that it's a crazy program to go through that paramedic.
Pretty much they make you a doctor.
It still comes back to that dedication thing you were talking about, though. You were saying impossible is nothing. I had plenty of guys that I worked on the ambulances with. Like, oh, it's impossible to get through that paramedic program. I'm going, well, they have 53 graduating classes up to this point. You can find guys that have made it through, and again, it's kind of a personal thing of how much time do you want to spend. I mean, I remember 2 in the morning, I'd be going through note cards on drugs, memorizing doses for the 100th time, and friends would call up and go, hey, we're going to go to a party, and you have that decision to make of, I can go hang out with friends, there's going to be chicks there, there's going to be booze there, or I can sit here isolated in my room with my note cards. That's a tough decision. I mean, you don't want to do that.
Especially
what your
for somebody young, like
forced loneliness.
Yeah. I mean, you have to. I mean, yeah, that's a sacrifice, but there's a benefit from it, and so it's like it isn't really a sacrifice when you have that goal where you want to get to. Other people look at it and go, how do you do that? Well, it was easy. This is where I wanted to get to. Past that, I worked as a paramedic out in San Bernardino for about 3.5 years for a large ambulance company that you guys both know about. That was a cool experience. It's definitely a failing city. It's kind of like like Detroit, the West Coast. Just whole blocks just abandoned. Squatters and drug addicts and people stabbing each other and doing 80s and 90s era drive-bys. I mean, just wild. I mean, I was 20.
That's horrible.
I turned 22 my first year working there, and you just wet behind the ears. Grew up in Orange County, and you're just in this whole different world. You're sitting, just chaos. From that, did a fire academy at Mount San Antonio College also, while working part-time as a medic. Renting rooms from buddies in bad neighborhoods, and living off a cup of noodles and cheese sandwiches. And,
top ramen.
Yeah, 50 pack of top ramen at Costco last while when you're broke. I went from there, tested with a whole bunch of departments, successfully got picked up by the department I'm at now. Yeah, I've been there about 5 years. Ran into Timmy and my other partner Dave. We had what's our total stretch together? 2-3 year stretch altogether.
Getting there, yeah.
That's pretty long. That's cool though.
But I mean, the whole way along. I mean, I was telling Timmy one of my tricks too is you run into influential people, mentors, people that you like how they do something. I always tell Timmy, I was just a thief. I mean, I feel like a reasonably bright guy, but not like Einstein or anything like that, but just I feel like I was a good thief. You see something that works, just steal that and make it yours. That's yours now. Give credit where credit's due. If somebody asks you, hey, where'd you get that from? Say, hey, I learned it from so and so, but take that and treat it as if it's your own.
You're talking about like any kind of tactic you use throughout school or something. Like that?
Anything. Tricks with medical procedures, patient assessments, how to study, how to wax your snowboard, how to tune your edges, how to fix a ding on a surfboard. How to avoid traffic, you name it. You find the most useful thing you can from them and just steal it. It's like a fun little hack to kind of just shorten your learning curve.
I like that.
Well, we were talking about that. I was at a wedding the other day, and whatever it is somebody does or where they've been or whatever their experience is, ask them the most important. What's the most important thing that you've figured out so far? You'll get some cool answers. It was. Well,
that's why we're here talking to you guys. Exactly why we're talking to you guys.
I ask that question all the time, especially older ladies or guys that were really sound of mind, or even some that weren't. I'll be like, all right, so I'm 20 years old right now and you're this old, you've lived a lot longer, what is the one piece of advice you'd give me?
That is, I like to do that to a lot of the older patients. We went on one lady the other day, she was 98, and for 98, she was she looked like someone that was maybe in her mid to late 70s, and we asked her, through a translator, we go, hey, what's the secret? And so the guy asked her, and he goes, well, she was never married, and she drank a lot. So it's just funny some of the answers you get. You see a guy that's like an old couple, and you're like, how long have you guys been married? 54 years. What's the secret? Usually you get some wise ass answer, and it's kind of funny, but somewhere buried in there's some really good advice. But yeah, I like that, because before, it was before I met Adam, I talked to people, and they'd be like, oh, so what's it like being a fireman? Because it's just one of those jobs where people expect, it has some cool stories along with it, or some unique experiences, so it makes for an easy conversation with someone you've never met. But I like to flip the tables, like I said, I've got a friend that's a chef, so I dig into that. Well, tell me about what you do, man. How do you do this, or how do you do that? And it's interesting when you start talking to people and actually asking them some pretty in-depth questions about what they do. Tell me about how you do this and that. And they're like, well, tell me about what you do. And I'm like, no, tell me. Why is this boring? Tell me about what it's like to be.
The guy, I was at a wedding the other night, and the guy sitting across from me, he said he sells those extended auto insurance policies. Mm-hmm. And at face value, you're kind of going that may not be the most interesting thing. But I'm like, well, what do you get away from that? What's the most important thing you've taken away from that? And he just says, they're crap, don't buy them. You know what I mean? That's not necessarily the most profound thing as far as my life goes, but I know from here on out not to buy an extended auto insurance policy. I'm like, hey, that's applicable,
But something so simple like that is just like, hey, what do you get out of that?
Rather than going on the internet and going down the rabbit hole for an hour and a half trying to figure out if I should do this, from the horse's mouth, the guy says, don't do it.
It is just cool because it gets you to engage people on another level instead of just having that regular chit chat, like, oh, so tell me about yourself. When you actually dig, it has that, and we're losing human interaction. The phones and iPads and everything that's coming along. It's like, they've shown that. We're just.
Do you guys ever do those TED Talks? You ever watch those?
I love TED Talks.
There's a TED Talk with an MIT professor, and she was talking about how in 2001, at the beginning of the whole technology boom and the internet and everything like that, how there's this energy and this optimism about, oh, look how great this is, and look at what it's going to be used for. And they didn't realize that the side effect of it was going to be the isolation that it causes. People have these 500 person rosters on Facebook of look how many friends I have. But really, you never see them. You're never doing what we're doing right now, having coffee. And she said it's a way to keep everybody at arm's length. And so her whole thing was talking about how to regain control of discussion or something like that, and interaction. And I think this is a huge thing. It wouldn't have even registered to me. Again, Timmy was talking about it, and I went, God, that's awesome. Again, we're from that generation that nobody had this kind of stuff. I think this was more at the forefront of what you guys are doing. But you guys are kind of working backwards. You're smart enough to take this and you're going, hey, technology's cool. We've been immersed in it our whole lives, but hey, look, we're going to work backwards from this. Like you were talking about, finding peace and quiet, getting away from light pollution, stuff like that. But
that was a big thing because I was living in New York when the iPod became big, and they said then, they're like, wow, we're losing interaction. Just even on the subways, people aren't looking at each other. They're just sitting there with their iPods, just plugged into their own little world, just whatever. And no one, you don't notice anything around you, and it's just people just miss out on it. So,
well, like you said, you need isolation from. You could be a solo person, but you shouldn't be involved in your phone or your computer, just sitting there by yourself at home, trying to get you have all these friends on Facebook, and they're not really friends, so it's kind of like you lead on this fake life on the internet or on your phone texting somebody. And it's like that show Catfish. I don't know if you guys watch that.
No,
I haven't seen that one.
I can imagine.
Well, it's crazy to like see these people that go through and just have these fake lives throughout the whole, like for like 10 years they portray somebody that they're not,
because they try to get in a relationship, right?
Yeah, and they're trying to get in a relationship, but when you can just go out in the world and be yourself and actually talk to somebody and ask them some in-depth questions.
But there's danger in that. I mean, you might fail. I mean, of all things, you might fail.
You might fail.
She might say no. Oh no.
Yeah.
That I think was one of the bad side effects of. I mean, you guys might be the tail end of it. I know. Mine and Timmy's generation was a lot of that. You know, we're all good. We're all winners. Everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah.
You know, we can't ever tell the kids they're bad or that they failed at anything because it's going to crush them. But I think that you know, that created like a fear of failure and kind of created like a paralysis. Nobody wants to act because they're just, well, if I don't ever do anything, I'm not going to fail, because I've taught that failure is the worst thing ever. So if I just don't do anything, I'm not going to fail.
Well, that book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is to not do that. Not to, like, you got to let people fail. And like they talked about, the author talked about how when his son wasn't good at baseball, and anytime he wouldn't get a hitter, they'd be like, oh, good job, buddy, good job, like you still did your best, blah blah blah. And then they realized like that wasn't helping him at all. So you need to fail. You need to go out there and get denied by some girl.
Well, also what it's done is we've gotten away from hand in hand with that is self-accountability, you know, and it's not my fault anymore, you know. No, it's not your fault you screwed up. It's not your fault you didn't get that hit. It's the pitcher, you know, the pitch he threw was too difficult, you know, or whatever.
The kind of bath they're using, or
yeah, I mean, I didn't get to do this, or you know, I didn't have the right breakfast that day, or whatever. You know, it's nothing's ever anyone's fault anymore. So you know, that's, you know, one thing as parents, it's like, you know, hey, yeah, you're gonna screw up sometimes, and it's gonna be your fault, and when it does, you need to make right for it.
Nobody's being taught nobody's learning how to fail or how to handle failure. You know, it's like they're just taught that this is something that you don't do, and then when it happens, it's just crushing to people. Whereas, you know, if you know how to handle failure, it's not that big of a thing. I mean, I feel like some of the best learning experiences have been when I've, you know, found myself flat on my face going, hey, that didn't work out right. You know, what are we doing next time?
Exactly. That's the same experience I have had. The most times where I've learned about myself, or like who I'm not, or more who I am through who I'm not, is because those failures, those times where I'm like, okay, this isn't me, or I messed up here, and okay, what can I take out of this? But without those experiences, I was talking to a guy last night, and he's talking to me about his drug addictions and what that led to him, and how he's like, you know what, if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't be who I was today. And he's like, I'm really proud of who I am, but if I didn't have that, I might not be the same guy. So it's like a weird negative that you can turn into a positive. That I don't know how you can improve yourself if all you're doing is winning, and people are saying, oh, you know, you did your best, you're good.
Well, I mean, like you were talking about with your UFC stuff that you're training at, I mean, if all it is you just, you know, knocking guys out and submitting them all the time, I mean, that'd feel great. I mean, I'm sure that's your goal,
right.
But I mean, as far as from a learning experience, that time where one guy beats you, you're going to really have to take a look at it and go, what did he do?
Yeah.
How did he get me? You know, and if you have those tools to look at and analyze it and remove your ego out of it and feel okay about yourself and go, hey, I lost, but I'm still all right. You know what I mean? Yeah, losing, I mean, it's all relative even.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, for fighters, I think almost always across the board, probably 99% of the time, a fighter would want a extremely hard fight where it's neck and neck the entire time, and then it goes to decision and they get it or they don't, rather than going in there and then on their second punch they knock the guy out. You know, it's like, or they get knocked out. It's like, you want that difficulty, you want that test for yourself. That's what it's all about. And, you know, we don't always find that.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, go with your story.
My story. I'll try to keep it brief. Well, I grew up in Chino, California. It's in the Inland Empire, the IE. I've been pretty goal oriented to get where I'm at since I was a kid. I was fortunate enough to have my dad's on the job. He's been on for 36 years now. So I knew from a very early age what I wanted to do, and I expressed that to him. You know, it was all, I went on a ride along when I was in the 7th grade. We had to do a community service project for 24 hours. I was like, I don't want to do, you know, a bunch of 8-hour days. So I asked my teacher, I go, hey, can I go ride along with my dad for, you know, their 24-hour shift? She goes, sure. And I went there, and that like sealed it for me, you know, because I'd been around fire trucks as a kid and stuff. And I go, this is what I want to do. I love the interaction of the guys, you know, just the station life. I go, this is what I want to do. And I told him, this is, you know, how do I do this? And he's like, you listen to me, and I guarantee that you will get a job. It may not be with us, but he's like, I will, you know, you follow my plan, and you'll become a firefighter. So I stayed away from a lot of the bad stuff in high school. You know, I never went to parties very much or anything. I was focused more on athletics. And then junior year, I decided that really needed to make a push for it. You know, with the fire service, age is one thing that's on your side, you know, and you got to capitalize on it when you can. So I started going to Mount Sac as a junior at nights. I took some fire science classes. Thought it was pretty cool. You know, it was like, oh man, I'm in college. College, you know, and I'm sitting there with people, and I remember my first instructors, you know, as we're going through, and I think like 16 or 17, you know, and so we're standing up. Hi, I'm Tim, you know, I'm 17 and whatnot. And he pointed me out and he goes, see that right there? He goes, that's who your competition is. You know, all you guys are 22 and 23, that's who's gunning for you, you know. And from there, senior year, second half, I went on independent studies because I took the world famous Mount Sac EMT course with Stephen Williams.
World famous.
It is tough. It was especially as you know, like I said, I mean, you know, your second half of your senior year, you're like, yeah, I'm graduating. It's like, nope, I am going to the hospital for clinical shifts. You know, so that was, you know, but it was worth it. You know, to sit there. You know, I tested with several departments. You know, before I graduated high school and shortly thereafter, and to sit there and go, yeah, I've got my EMT already, and you know, I haven't even really graduated yet.
That's awesome.
It was pretty cool. So shortly after 9/11, a guy that I had worked with at my high school job, he was a medic for AMR Rancho. His partner was from New Jersey, and was like, hey man, you know, you got your EMT and you don't really have any attachments. You know, you can, here's the information for this lady, Peggy Quinn. I owe a lot to that lady. You know, call her up, and you know, they're looking for EMTs back there. So I call her up, and she laid out the plan for me, told me what I had to do. So I started doing it, and then I went back to New York with a bunch of, like, my dad and a bunch of guys from his battalion for some funerals. And I just fell in love with the city. And he's like, all right, you know, he's like, if you want to do this, go for it. He's like, you'll never have another opportunity like this again in your life. You know, you have no attachments. You can always come home, but you need to go do this. And he sort of pushed me towards it. And 8 months later, we were moving into a small little one-bedroom apartment in Staten Island. And yeah, so I started working with FDNY EMS in September of 2002, literally a year to the day after 9/11. I moved out there. I was out there for 5.5 years, and then I got hired in 2008 with the department I'm at now. And yeah, so it's been kind of an interesting journey, you know, sort of, you know, talk about the impossible is nothing. You know, I was 19 when I moved out there. I knew one person that I had met at a funeral. I had one contact. And, you know, it's being out here, you know, I grew up in, you know, it's kind of a close-knit community. You know, you talk about that little fish in a big pond feeling. It's like, what did I do? Where did I get myself into? So, you know, I went through their EMS academy, and then I used that one friend. She was pretty influential in the EMS community out there. I said, hey, I want to work in the nastiest, busiest, craziest part of the city. You know, I mean, if I'm going to be there, I'm going to maximize my experience. So she's like, oh yeah, okay, not a problem. And here I am, you know, I was 20 then, you know, lugging this big old duffel bag full of gear through the South Bronx. You know, people give me this look like, what in the hell is this? You know, and I'm like, I just scared out of my mind. So, but the experience out there, like, I got a lot of the same stories. Adam and I like to sit there some days on the squad and trade stories about just some of the crazy situations that just seem to find you, you know, when you're out there, and some of the crazy stuff that we did, and how it sort of prepared us for where we're at now, you know. And it's like, oh, this isn't so bad. You know, you go on some of the calls out here and you go, oh, this is so bad. We have the police here, and there's no crowd yelling at us, and I've got plenty of resources, you know, to help me out. It's like, hey, this is great. You
Nobody's threatened to stab me.
Yeah, you know, I don't have anyone
kick anybody out of my ambulance.
Yeah, yes, you know. So, but yeah, it's been kind of an interesting journey.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
So we like both of you guys. We that's why you guys are here. We ask you guys are here. We think you guys are thinkers, hard workers. We like the work ethic you guys have. But there's obviously a correlation. Tim, you went, you know, across the entire country to work in one of the biggest cities, and then in the nastiest part. And then Adam, you were working in San Bernardino as a medic. That's nice. And not really, but also, and then you went to Mount Sac, which is, you knew what you weren't just like, oh, this is the closest one. You knew what you were getting into. Yeah. So what is it about you guys' work ethic that, or you guys must love your career field in order to, you know, really test yourself and push yourself? But how do you get that, you know, how do you deal with somebody else or look at somebody who wants to be in the fire, but it's like, oh, I'm going to take the easiest route there possible? Like, what do you say?
Well, so I mean, like the people that come up, then they ask you, what's the easiest way to get on the fire department?
Yeah.
It's hard to answer that one because you're kind of just left that acrid feeling at the back of your teeth kind of going, it's not easy. Like, how again, how much do you want to apply yourself to it?
I mean,
people think there's some little secret, handshake and a back door, that doesn't work.
Handshake.
Yeah, people are like, oh yeah, no, I want to be a fireman, so can I apply? And it's like, no, it's a lot. Okay, well, I need a job, so what's the quickest way? It's like, okay, well, you know what? Those people, it's like you don't really want to invest your time in. You look at certain people and you value the interaction between them, like this, this is valuable, but you look at someone like that and you go, okay, they're just looking for the easy way. Is this the person I want backing me up when the shit is hitting the fan and we might not go home?
Yeah,
is this the person I want?
I'm in a burning building and things are going bad. Do I want a guy that just takes the easy route and shortcuts?
So person's looking for the easy way out.
Because that person, if they're going to take the easy route to get a career like this, then if one of us goes down, I don't think they're going to have and it's like they have that opportunity to save you or save themselves. It's like what's going to happen. So it's like, here's the website, and good luck to you, Whereas someone that comes and goes, hey man, this is my dream. I want to be a firefighter. What do I do? It's like you sit down and you go, okay, here's my journey. Here's what I did. Here are some options available to you, and here's what's going on in the fire service today. I mean, a lot of the baby boomers are retiring and stuff. So we're in a big transition phase. A lot of the more experienced guys are leaving the job and there's a vacancy of good quality leadership. So it's like, hey man, this is what's going on. This is what you need to do. This is the strike while the iron's hot. I mean, you want to have good quality people. So
it kind of feels like, I don't know, like those kung fu movies where like the kid's approaching like the Zen master and they ask a question and you just give them one answer that they're left going, what did he mean by that? I mean, again, if somebody asks, what's the easiest way to get on the fire department, I'm just kind of like, there isn't one. Yeah. Come back and ask me another day.
You gotta
where
know.
Somebody comes back and says, how do I do this? Okay, well, here's how. And they ask you a question like, what did you do to stay motivated? Well, that's a whole different conversation. Really, I tend to answer people kind of how they ask me.
And I think some people that don't know about it will take you, like, for example, that your dad was in the department, and they think, oh, well, his dad was in the department, so he got this easy way in. And like, if anybody that knows the actual process of it, it might help you. He might have helped you through the process because he's been through the process, right. But he didn't actually help. Like, everybody has to do a test, everybody has to apply, everybody has to do an interview, and everybody has to do backgrounds and stuff like that. So it's not
there is no shortcut. There is no like, my Uncle Bob works at this station, you show up, they put a uniform on you, and the next day you're a firefighter.
But the days of the good old boys club, like, oh, that's so-and-so's kid, we're gonna, why don't you, we'll fast track.
That's over.
Those are done. It's you got to go through the same thing. I mean, it's a lottery. But if you work hard, good things happen. I
think it just happens. I mean, it's like I think people are surprised. I mean, it's kind of sad that people think that either they'll get lucky and something will happen to them and they'll have it good, or they're just going to kind of like bounce around through life and see what happens. I mean, I don't think there was ever any question that I was going to do this. It was just, I'm going to get there, and I'm going to keep improving. I'm going to keep applying myself and find whatever other things I could to make me better at doing this, and it was a long road, but I mean, I think I'm all the better for it, because compared to guys that, get lucky that first test and get hired on, I mean, the experience, like Timmy was talking about, working in all those different cities and stuff, it's just, you can't put a price on that.
No.
Was there ever a time where, like, a specific time or a specific day where you're just like, I can't do this, like, this is over, I'm gonna give up? No. For both of you, anytime?
I don't think I was ever gonna give up, but I mean, there's definitely some dark days. I mean, getting paid a subpar wage, and living on Timmy and I's conversation the one time, I had to make the decision between new tires on my car so I don't die during the rainy season, putting enough gas in my tank to actually drive to work to make more money the next time, and buying food. And so it's like, how do you pick two of the three of those? You need all of those. And so I mean, you're left making the decision of kind of middle of the road stuff, and nobody wants to live middle of the road. Nobody wants to just survive. People want to thrive. And so it was a hard road. I mean, San Bernardino was not a pretty city. there's not nice things happening there. I mean, the horrible stuff that people are doing to each other, we've talked about, I think it stains your soul in some aspects. You can handle it and shrug it off. I mean, in the long term, I just don't think it's good to see.
Especially at we both started at really young ages to be exposed. Like I said, most of our friends at the time that we were scraping people off the concrete, we're going to parties and college and stuff like that. And they had no idea just the stuff we were seeing. But yeah, I agree with Adam. I mean, it was never like, okay, I'm going to quit. I'm just going to give up, because with me there was no backup plan. It was like, I burned the boats on the shore.
Exactly.
It was like, like I said, the 7th grade on, I was like, I'm going to be a firefighter. So there was no like, oh crap, I'm going to fail and become whatever. There was nothing. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And there were a lot of days where you just go, is it ever going to happen? I saw friends get hired and start living the dream and stuff. But there was a quote that I really liked by Henzo Gracie.
Oh yeah.
And it was, hard work never goes unrewarded. And I always dug that. I actually printed it out and I had it taped on the back of the door to my apartment, because like I said, it got to the point, like, you're working for just really bad pay. I was commuting, I had to walk and then take a boat and then take a train and then a bus. It was a long commute to go get that experience every day. I mean, looking back on it now, I valued every second of it, and it helped me appreciate what I have now. But it's like, so I had that, and I look at that and I go, what I liked is the never part. It's like, it never goes unrewarded. In some aspect, it's going to pay off, but you got to work for it, and some, people's journey is different than others. I mean, I look at me, I tested all over the, the East Coast and here in the West Coast. And then, in my recruit class, there was a guy that was bagging groceries at Vaughn's and decided, oh yeah, I'm going to be a fireman. I'm going to go take the test. And
that looks
boom.
Fun.
Yeah. And it's like, what?
Yeah, you're like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
The whole way along, I don't know, I've talked to Timmy. I'm kind of an odd guy as far as some things go. I looked at it and I wanted to see how far I could push myself in those little dark corners of life, because that's a survival tool. It's like, how bad can it get? What's the most that I can deal with? Because once you know that, then, you've got that tool. Whereas if people have never known strife, they've never known discomfort, they've never known hard times, when hard times hit, it's just going to be catastrophic to them. Right. So, again, when the day in and day out was, living on subpar wages, seeing blood, guts, gore, and mayhem, living on bad food, and, in an area where nothing grows. Everything's dead in that city.
Yeah, that's
so, you can have control about how far you dive into that craziness. And it's a weird way of looking at it. You flip it backwards. You're in charge of your discomfort. And so then you have that tool to move on from. I can think back, that was probably one of the hardest times of my life, but you have that there.
And you grew like enormously, probably more so than any other time in your life.
A lot of things, life is kind of gravy after that point. I remember, the first shift I ever had as an EMT, it was like the 48 hours of death. We had a guy get hit on the freeway. We had a guy get shot. We had a guy get buried alive. It's just everybody died that 48. And I was, I think, 19 at the time. Mm-hmm. And I just came off work going I stopped at Denny's, and it's like the eggs were runny, the coffee was cold, the hash browns weren't crunchy, but it was the best breakfast I've ever had. I'm like, I can think of 4 people who would swallow this down right now and go about their business and be stoked out of their mind.
I remember coming off of shifts there, like I said, it's just a hot summer night and just the craziest, stuff. It's like an episode of Law and Order. Just all sorts of crazy shit is happening. And it's like you get on the train and I grab a copy of the New York Post and I'm like, this is the greatest train ride ever. I'm gonna take it. You just sit there and it's just like, you talk about that quiet time. I was guilty. I'd put my iPod in and just like I'd be on that boat ride and it's like, I love the Statue of Liberty, and just sort of unwind. But it's funny that Adam talks about like those, that really shapes you, those challenges. Because like I said, there was a lot of guys when we get in the academy, they're like, oh my God, I'm taking a pay cut. And I'm looking at my first check going, woohoo, oh my God, they're paying me to do this, wow. And then, we had a really, really bad heat wave. It was like 110 for like a couple weeks. And guys are bitching and whining and stuff. And I'm sitting there in the back of I'll never forget it. I was sitting in the back of the rig waiting for one of the, the tough hose assignments. You have to drag a whole bunch of hose and part of it was uphill and it's, like I said, it's hot and you're just like, I just sort of looked around a minute and I'm like, wow, I could be back in New York doing a 5-flight carry down in some nasty hallway, making no money. This is pretty good. And I remember going, yeah, it's going to be all right, and
that's right. Again, even now, we'll have shifts where, we're 26 plus calls in a 24-hour shift, and Timmy and I are just kind of like, at least it's not New York, Yeah, at least I'm not in San Bernardino.
Yeah. So you guys learned to kind of take all those struggles you went through at work and then outside of work, just enjoy those small little things. Like you said, nice runny eggs at Denny's or whatever, and
coffee.
Yeah, just enjoy the little things in life that makes.
You know how it is, man. I mean, when someone gives you something, you don't appreciate it nearly as much as when you are the one that earned it. You know, if I were to give you a car, you know, you'd be like, oh, this is cool, you know, but you wouldn't treat it as well as if you earned that. You know, you had to work, you know, blood, sweat, and tears to get that. You're gonna take such good care of whatever it is that that you earned. You know, I think the same applies to your career. You know, I mean, if it's just, and it doesn't apply for everyone, so I don't want to generalize, but it's like if, you know, you just, you know, we're sort of just won the lottery that one day and you're a fireman, and all of a sudden, you know, as opposed to the guy that worked, you know, I mean, we had guys in my class that were trying to get on for 15, 20 years. So, you know, it's like you sit there and you feel sorry for yourself. You're like, oh man, it took me 7 years to get on. And then this guy's like, well, I'm 44 and I'm in the tower. Like, you know what? It really puts things in perspective.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, maybe it's not so bad.
I went to a private high school in a very upper class part of California. Class of like,
oh, you fancy.
It was like $13,000 to go there. I got there. I went in. I didn't have to pay because my father was a teacher. But the same thing, we saw kids, happy 16th birthday, here's a brand new BMW, you know, like, and then it was almost like guaranteed, like 2 weeks later, they were going 120 on the freeway.
And
they would just wreck it. They would wreck it. And then their dads would like be like, all right, it's like 50 grand in the shop to get it fixed. Here's another.
We talk about that all the time, you know, like, because my school is like that too, man. It's like you just see some of the cars and it's like the teachers aren't even driving cars this nice. And what it's like,
there's a pretty big social divide at my school. It's like there's, you know, we didn't really have tracks, but I mean there was the wrong side of the tracks. I mean, yeah, there's kids driving $100,000 cars, and you know, I scraped together what I had, you know, with my dad and bought like a 1994 Ford Ranger with like a Gardner rack on the top from some 90-year-old guy down in Oceanside. I'm like, oh my god, I got a car. This is great, you know.
Yeah, I played golf in high school, and we played against Brea, and there's a country club, right? Brea Country Club, if I remember.
I think they had
correctly.
A couple golf courses.
Well,
I wasn't privy to go to those, so I can't tell.
It was a super nice golf course, and all the kids roll up. Like, dude, one kid had BMW, this other kid had like an Acura, and I was like, what? And we came from a private school, or I went to a private school also. And the kids that drove like nice cars at my school, I was like, oh, those guys, where do they get all that money? And then I went to this school, and it was like twice as much money for their cars, and I was like, what? Like, how could you do that to your kid and just like kind of deprive them of working hard? Really,
they gained nothing from it. I mean, I'm far enough out of high school. I mean, 10, 11 years out of high school now, and that guy, you know, the proverbial that guy with that car and all that stuff. At the time, you're going, wow, that looks nice, but 10 years down the road, you can honestly look at that guy. He's fat, he's unemployed, he's lazy.
Because everything was handed to him when he was younger.
It's all worth it. I mean, you know, like I was talking about, the discomfort and the sacrifice at the time is all relative to what do you get out of it.
I like that. I really like that idea that your discomfort is your choice, and I think that's very true. And what we're trying to talk about here too is you guys went through what a lot of people could not do, was a discomfort or an uncomfortable route to get where you wanted to be, but now you guys have fulfillment and you guys love what you do. But other people, you know, they might be going through that, I think I'll go through this uncomfortable route, and then as soon as, you know, it gets a little bit too uncomfortable, they just get the other job that just makes enough money so that they can live, you know, comfortably. That's what everyone says, you know, I just want to be comfortable.
Yeah, well, you know, it was one of those things when I sort of hit that wall when I was living back east, you know, it could, like I said, I had nothing attached, you know, keeping me out there. I could have just said, okay, well, I'm going to go home. You know, would I have hated myself for it? You know, in the short term, it would have been happier. I would have been around my family. I would have been around my friends. You know, short term gain would have been pretty good, but in the long term, you know, I mean, I'm not sure where it would have ended up because of it. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, like you said, you choose to stay out there. You choose to keep fighting because you know that there's an end goal that you want. You know, and I think that's kind of, you know, no matter what we do, we want to be the best at it. You know, we want to.
You should want to be the best at it.
You know, and are we? No, there are guys that are probably, well, Adam, in my opinion, you know, I've had the opportunity to work around some really talented medics. You know, he's in the top 3. You know.
I would trade it all to be built like you for a day. Like Timmy for a day would just be this me just smashing things. I could conquer the world if I was you for a day.
Yeah, you know, but it's like we want to be at least try. You know, that's why we worked bad areas as EMTs, because, you know, it's like, yeah, I can go earn the same amount of money, run half as many calls. in nice neighborhoods, or I can get out there and I get my hands dirty and learn something. And the same thing with the fire department. It's like we want to work around people that inspire you to sort of step your game up. And like you said, I took the whole thief thing from him. It's like you see someone do something cool, you go, hey, show me that again.
Yeah, that's mine now.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna put that in my little, they call it the slideshow in the fire department. That way you can always refer back to it. But yeah, we want to work at the busy station. We just like action, and it's like one of those things. I mean, if we work somewhere slower, yeah, would we go home more rested? Probably. Would we have many cool stories? Not as many. But just that longing, we'd be like, oh, we'd hear cool stuff happen on the radio. To know that, at least for me, to know that I'm not a part of it, I'd be like, I feel like I'm missing out on something.
Yeah.
So that's why I work where I work. That's why I choose. Like I said, you guys work a busy area. There's a lot of sleepless nights. You could bid a much slower station, south of here and have more. But it's, what would you really be gaining
out of it?
Yeah.
How do you guys deal with? You talked about, that those events or those calls that taint your soul, and you guys have been in this field for a long time. How do you deal with that in the long term and short term?
I mean, I remember being your guys' age, and you're indestructible at your guys' age. It's the best feeling on the planet. I wish I could go back and kind of have that, because it just felt great. You're like, I'm never gonna die, gonna live forever, can conquer anything, and it's good. You use that to your. But I mean, you see things, and as you grow and mature, you do realize, like, hey, wear your seatbelt. Maybe you should drive the speed limit. But
yeah.
As far as the things that seeing the bad stuff, I mean, it's you don't get into this field if you can't see that kind of stuff. I mean, it's kind of like the most common trait of successful people is that they're successful people. You don't have to teach it to them; it's just kind of there. So I mean, I think we kind of realize, individually that you can see that stuff and it doesn't bother you. Hey, I've got a bit of a gift, but not to say it doesn't affect you. I mean, I've noticed amongst other guys, you'll kind of have these crash days where for some reason you won't know why. It's like you'll just sleep for like 16 hours. Not that on the surface, you're like trembling and crying like, oh, I can't believe I've seen bad stuff. But I think subconsciously it kind of like it's all filled up and kind of like a file folder like on your computer, and then every now and then your body just has to dump it, and you sleep for 16 hours and wake up. And
that's a long time. Never slept that long.
I've done that. I mean, I think you mentioned that. I think Dave even mentioned he's done that before, and you kind of don't see it coming. You'll just like one afternoon just feel really tired, and then you wake up like the next day at 1:00 going, what happened?
What just happened?
I think it's that's a huge issue. I mean, I don't know if it's an issue with the fire department, but I feel like especially with our company, when I've been on some stressful calls, all I got was like, hey man, you all right? I was like, and then I thought I was all right. I was like, yeah, I'll be all right. And then that just went throughout the next day, and like I still think back to this specific call that we had, and then I'm like, how does that even happen? And I think people are kind of scared to reach out. Like I was scared to ask somebody for help, and people are kind of like, you deal with that stress, and since everybody's so masked, they're like, oh well, I could deal with it because I'm an EMT or I'm a firefighter. I've learned to deal with it, or I've learned to just push it to the side. And I think people should talk about stuff.
I completely
like
agree.
More.
With the fire service, and I lump what you guys do in with that because we're in the trenches together. But that whole stigma of it's like you're a man, you suck it up and you deal with it and you move on to the next thing. And it's like like I said, I remember when I was 21 and 22, and a lot of the stuff that I saw then, if I would have seen now, having more perspective on things, having a kid, I'll tell you what, man, it changes a lot about the way you view things. Before I was like, oh, whatever, you just go about your day. And I know, at least with me, and I know it might not be the right thing, but it's just, you sort of develop a callous, after seeing, freaking, mayhem and stuff for going on 12 years now. It's like, you just go,
I mean, that's not a bad thing to say. I mean, human beings, it's adapt or die. And I mean, it's kind of the same thing in this situation. I think the one thing that they've changed is they talk about like CISD, like the critical incident stress debriefing. Yeah. They actually figured out that that's harmful. It makes you replay the tape. If you find yourself replaying a tape of that call in your head, the best thing you can do is to stop the tape. Whatever you have to do, move on, take some time off, take a vacation, go sit in the trees. And then they call you into a room with the counselor. It's like, so how do you talk about it? You're like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, but it'll help you if you talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. Yeah. And then they make you replay that tape, and you're just,
but they're still doing it.
All I wanted was a Pepsi kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think, one of the most beneficial things is just sitting around the kitchen table, having coffee at the firehouse, going, okay, you know, and you just talk about it, or you just talk about anything, you know, like I said, the guy, you know, you have those calls where, you know, you just know that everyone's just sort of like, they're not necessarily hurting, but everyone's just a little shooked up, and it sort of puts things, you know, you can tell when, you know, guys are off. It's like you just sit there and you just talk, you know, whether it's about the incident or whether it's about, you know, anything. You just sit there and you're around your friends and you're all sort of like just going through that healing thing together, you know. And like for me, I know I think the problem with some of the guys that today is that, you know, I want to be a fireman. It's cool. You know, you got a great schedule. You get you know, cool. You get a big paycheck, and then all of a sudden,
20 days off a month, which does never happen.
Yeah, you know, all of a sudden, you know, you throw someone who's not really prepared for what's going to happen into some situation where it's like, oh my God, and they don't know how to prepare for that because they didn't think that they were going to see something horrendous, you know, and yeah, I mean, you know, for me, it was early on, there was some stuff that bothered me, but you know, you just sort of, you can't think of everyone as like that's someone's son or daughter or mother or father. It's just like, you just sort of, you know, just like I said, you don't replay the tape in your head. You know, you talk about, you know, hey, what could I have done better? What could I have done worse?
I can't remember who told me it, but it's like, you know, if you weren't there and you didn't decide to do what you do and step up to go handle that person would just die face down in a gutter. So at least you did them right by at least showing up. I mean, at the minimum, showing up, you did them so right. As far as people on this planet, you know, as far as humanity goes, you did a huge thing for that person just by being there. If you can pull off some miracle and, you know, stick a needle somewhere or stick tube somewhere and you buy them some time and the doctor saves them, then hey, hats off to you. You know.
But yeah, like I said, we're our own worst enemies in that aspect, you know. I mean, and it's like, you know, if you have something that bothers you, and there's different trigger points. I've learned that for everyone. You know, it could be the slightest thing I've seen with some guys, you know, and you just know that they're not right afterwards. You go, hey, what's going on? And they're like, well, you know, my father died that way, and he looked just like that. When I'm serious, you know, and it's like, but you go to someone else and they'd be like, oh, suck it up, you pussy. You know, you're a fireman. No, and it's, you know, it's like we're the first to discount what anyone else, you know, their feelings. Oh, well, that guy's shook up, you know, he needs to suck it up, or, you know, this guy has, you know, experience before, but it doesn't count because it's not with us. You know, I mean, we are the first, you know, we need to get rid of that machismo mentality, you know, with
machismo.
Yeah.
What's that?
That manliness.
Whole, that bravado, you know, that whole manliness, you know, like, you know, and that's
macho
the thing,
man.
that, you know, a lot of guys
Heard of macho man, not machismo.
Well,
yeah, it's like the kind of a slander for like the big man on campus.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, we get guys, you know, because that's the thing. Instead of, you know, like when I look at Adam and I look at his experience before of being a medic in a busy area, I go, wow, that's really cool. So I want to learn from him. Whereas some guys go, oh, well, that shit doesn't count. He didn't do it with us. So they just automatically discount it because they're jealous. They don't have that in their playbook. So they're like, oh, well.
That's a loss from their end, though. I mean, again, it's
yeah,
you know,
like
if you've got something you can gain from somebody, why would you close your mind and not gain from it?
Just be a thief, and you could take everything out of their brains.
I think they're calling that hacking now. They're calling it like mind hacks, and that's kind of like the trendy term now, I think. But
and it's like, I don't care.
It's like that showed up on a TED thing. Some guy was like, you know, hack or whatever. I mean, people are using that term hack. And I just think it's funny that they're taking social interaction. They're comparing it to technology.
Yeah.
It's like they used to just call that conversation learning, you know?
Yeah.
It used to be just talking to somebody, and now it's called hacking because technology. Like, that's not just actually ask somebody some questions and get whatever you can out of them. Like you said, just be a thief.
I mean, from some of the people that we had in the field that I thought I would never learn from, just keeping an open mind and just hearing what they said, even if like 99% of it was bullshit. If they said like one little thing that made me think or I could take away from, I was like,
this guy
I'm glad I was listening to you, man.
You mean like if a guy that's on your podcast now ripped either one of you? Sorry to both of you for that. I've kind of actually carried that, and I felt bad about that. But at the same time, saying it now and sitting here with you guys is kind of like a soccer coach I had. It's like if he's not screaming, yelling, he doesn't care.
Right.
It's like finally we had some young guys. I'm like, these guys actually, there's potential here. So I was like, hey, come on,
just do it.
Oh yeah. So I guess we should say that. Yeah, Adam. I don't know, Mikey. You got yelled at.
Just say it.
I got yelled at. Yep.
I got
Adam yelled at me.
Just say it. Just call him a dick.
That's fine.
I thought initially I was like, man, this guy's an asshole, man. Like this guy.
I am. No,
because that's like dude. I've heard stories. Just about people getting yelled at, and like, yeah, Adam, like he always yells at new people and blah blah blah. And I mean, it was understandable why he got on.
Only the ones that I
it.
can see there's potential. Like you really need to be worried if I'm just like, okay, go sit over there, don't touch anything.
I like that though. I mean, you're always trying to make somebody better.
Not only that, but it's, if we have high expectations for ourselves and those that we work with. I mean, and us. We have high expectations for the crews that run with us, and we in turn expect them to have high expectation of the medic that they run with. I mean, we hear a lot of the same stories. These guys just treat people in your company like shit. And it's like, what are they going to get out of that? They're going to go around for the next, they're going to eventually make it. They're going to go, oh yeah, that guy, he was an asshole. What do you get out of it? You don't get anything. Whereas opposed to you go, hey man, and I mean, we were in your guys' shoes.
I had the same thing happen to me again. It's kind of like, it's you guys are cool. You got like a bit of like an old school thing going on, like guys that are way younger than us, and it's good to see, because there's a lot of times where I was like, I was kind of collectively worried. I'm like, I was kind of hard on those guys. I kind of ripped them. I'm like, I'm probably gonna get like some HR letter and have to sign like a hurt feelings report or something. Yeah. Hey, hats off.
Maybe to some people at our company, but I'm not like that. I kind of just took it. I was like, maybe I should have a flat on my ambulance, but yeah. But it's always. Do you feel like you have so much stress? Is that why you?
No, it was.
Or is it just?
Yeah, no, like I said, as far as those go, I mean,
sleep
and I'm glad you guys
deprivation.
kind of looked at it and it was like, well, that's kind of out of character for him, because again, it's like Timmy was talking about, recognizing how a guy's doing. It's like, I don't know, maybe I can't really remember specifically the day. I mean, yeah, shame on me out of my character if I was having a bad day. I don't think I tried to take it on you guys, but it could have been, But again, at the same time, it's like, that was the generation I grew up in. It was like, if your soccer coach wasn't chewing you out, then it's like, mild neglect is more scary to me than an ass chewing. It's like, an ass chewing, they feel like there's potential there. Like when the minute they just brush you off to the side and they're like, they've given up, that's more scary. So it's kind of like, I think guys at your company know that it'd be like, if you want to learn or need anything from me, in a heartbeat, I love to teach, but
Yeah. Well, I think your guys' shift is like one of the best medics. You guys have the three of the top 3 medics. I don't know. I mean,
thanks for that.
All the time.
And that's what we strive for. Is we don't, like I said, we just don't half-ass things. I mean, granted, we each have our bad days, but it's like, I mean, we like being there. We love our jobs. We enjoy being there, and I think that's just a natural reflection of how we feel about it. And then it comes. We don't go around going, oh, we're gonna be the best guys out there. It's like, hey, we love our job. We're going to try to be as good as we can at it, and it's nice that you guys.
And that's just a side effect of it.
Yeah,
like you're just gonna be the best person you can be, or the best medic you can be in.
You nailed it with the first part, best person. It's like, at the end of the day, I'd rather be known for being a good person than like being a good medic. It's like if I could pick one or the other, I know what I'd pick.
Yeah,
I think for the fire department, for both of you guys, it's not, I want to be a fireman. It's I want to be this person, and in this career field, it lets me be that person. In terms of yelling though, or screaming, or not screaming or yelling, but like, because like my parents do it to me, I think that most parents do. I don't know, actually. Tough
love, I guess.
Yeah, tough love. But I'd way like 100% more want that than what I see in corporate world, and now, like, you know what? I'm going to write you up. I'm going to tell your supervisor, and then he's going to deal with you. Like, that is so disgusting to me that we can't just have a face-to-face conversation. If it gets a little heated, it gets a little heated.
Yeah.
But, at least we deal with it. And then it's not just like, oh, look what he's doing. All right, I'm going to write this on a piece of paper. And
incident report immediately.
And that to me is just like, that's just completely opposite. It's just like with the phones and the computers and everything, we're losing that face-to-face value. That I don't learn anything from that. Sign this piece of paper. What does that mean? That you don't like me? Or I don't know what that means.
Pull your pants up.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, both of you guys, since you guys are in the field too, how do you guys deal with the stress? What do you guys do off duty or something that makes you guys
podcast?
Yeah. Besides being awesome at this.
Yeah.
I thought that going to the gym and doing that was good for me, but I knew that something was wrong with me when I'd go and I'd be doing a jiu-jitsu class, and like the only thing I could think of is I want to hurt this person. Even if I'm choking him out, I want to keep choking, or I want to like, or if he's like sitting on top of me, like we have guys like Tim's size, and they're like sitting on top of me, and I'm a really nice guy, and everyone's really cool in jiu-jitsu, but then I just had that one day where it's like I want to hurt, or if someone's hurting me, then I get so frustrated, and then I just like I remember one guy, we were rolling, and then I started choking him, and then I just like stopped, and I was like, hey, I bowed to him. I was like, hey, I gotta go, man. Like I knew something was off, and then I came home and meditation and just sitting there. And if I feel like yelling, I'm gonna yell. If I feel like crying, I'm gonna cry. But I let myself. Just
there's nothing wrong with that.
Develop it.
But that's funny because every every article or book you ever read on paramedic or EMT or firefighter burnout goes, well, go to the gym. It's like
go to the gym.
It's a great stress relief, and it's like, but for you, it only seemed to make compound things and make it even worse.
It like brought it to the surface. Whatever I hadn't dealt with, I think my subconscious was trying to deal with it at that moment through anger or whatever. But I had to have that alone time, whether it was hiking or going out somewhere, just being alone in my room and just dealing with it. And just going.
Yeah, I've been last week, I think I had I don't know, I went to work and I was like so stressed. I don't know what was wrong with me. I was just like, man, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? Why am I even at work? Like, I see dead people. I just saw a dead person yesterday. Like, what the fuck am I doing? And I was like, I don't know what. It was like a weird, and I just wrote like a journal entry in my a journal. I just typed something up, like what I was thinking and why I was thinking like that in Microsoft Word. And then like the rest of the day I felt a lot better. It was weird. That was the first time I ever did that, and I want to continue that, and that was like a good stress relief.
Keep doing that.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I wish I could go back to 19-year-old Tim and go, hey, you're gonna have some really cool shit happen over the next 13 years. Write it down.
Yeah.
Take your laptop and write stuff, because there's just stuff that I think it would be fun to go back go back 10 years or whatever to when I was 21 and just read what 21-year-old Tim was going through in New York City all by himself. I think that'd be kind of cool to do that. So keep that going, because someday when you're sitting there and you're a fireman and or whatever your end game is, and you go, wow, I was feeling pretty low at this point. Interesting, and just to read, about the roller coaster ride that you go on, because you got some really cool stuff coming your way, and that's what's kind of cool about talking with you guys is you are, a decade younger than us. And it's like
you're tuned in and turned on, though. I mean, again, you look at a day of your life, and it's perspective is all relative. I mean, the day you're going through it may have been one of the worst days of your life, but you break open that journal and get a different view at it, and you may have some love and appreciation for it along the lines of, hey, look what it made me. Look what I went through. So I mean, journal's cool. A trick on the journal.
Right, they call it a blog now, Adam.
Yeah, that's what I want. I didn't have anything to write with.
If you use a pen, it's funny. It's like you can actually kind of get like stream of consciousness writing, where you learn where it's like kind of like your hand just writes down what your brain's thinking. That's the goal with that.
There was a problem though. I didn't have a paper to write on.
Yeah, that's not like when we were doing this, Adam. You could write a journal entry on your phone.
I wanted to tell my partner was sleeping. I was going to wake him up and ask him if we could go to the store so I could buy a ream of paper. But I was like, what? I'll just do it on the computer for now.
Do you guys journal?
Used to more, not so much anymore. Again, the thing that's cool about this is, Timmy and I were kind of talking, is that you get so wrapped up in habits and life and everything like that. I feel like this is kind of a cool little switch. Like, I just felt like I was kind of going through the motions on a lot of stuff, and had some changes lately and changed some things about my life. And this has been a cool catalyst. I sitting down and having good conversations with people. It gets your neurons going. It just makes you think. It gives you new options. Good conversation, outside the doors of the hospital the other day. And
that was great.
I need that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Coffee and conversation. People stop doing it.
Yeah, let's. We were talking about all your what you're passionate about and what you ultimately want to do. So what are you guys passionate? Let's stop talking about work. And what are your actual passionate?
Adam's sort of like a Renaissance man over here,
Yeah, we talked for like
and he snowboards and he does all this cool shit. And it's like, oh, what does Tim do? Oh, he goes and he lifts heavy stuff. You know, there's like that funny little meme or whatever you freaking call it. It's like,
Is it called a meme?
a meme, okay. And it's like it's a CrossFit one, and like it's like, oh, what do you do for workout? I lift weights. It's like, oh, what do you do for cardio? I lift weights faster. And I'm like, hey, that's funny.
Yeah,
you know,
I love that one. It's like hilarious.
That's what I'm passionate about. You know, I love CrossFit. I bore my wife to death with it.
Does she do CrossFit?
No, I haven't given up the fight yet, but it's a losing battle. I'm trying to they just started a boot camp. I'm like, well, why don't you come in for the boot camp? You know, maybe you'll like it, and then sort of transition to that, because she was a really good volleyball player, and so I think that the competitive aspect would be really beneficial. You know, because it gives us an outlet. I mean, I played football for a long time, and it's like I'm 31 going on 32. Strapping on the pads isn't the smartest thing anymore, but there's still a way I can be competitive, even if it is against yourself. But the owner of the CrossFit gym we go to, we were talking to him, and he's 43, whatever he is, and he's been in the CrossFit games. This is be his second year, and he's like, he was a baseball player and all that. He's like, well, I can't do that anymore because I'm too old and I can't be in the MLB, so it's another outlet for me to be competitive outside of sports. See, that's someone whose brain I'd like to pick. Someone that's going to the games, because that's just like we'll do in our gyms, we'll do the workouts that the guys do at regionals and stuff, and just to see how much faster and stuff they do it. It's like, where's that switch, that you can sort of step it up to that next gear. But for me, I don't know. It just wraps everything I need into one. Like, we talk about needing to unplug, and there's a great entry by Chris Moore, who's he's a podcast.
I love that
part
guy.
Of a podcast.
His blog. Do you read his blog?
I do on occasion.
I love it.
And one of them was, it's like we talk about the unplugging thing, and it's like, enjoy every second of that workout, because it's just you and a barbell, or you and whatever you're going against. The music's going on in the background, but you're just sort of subconsciously focused at the task at hand. He goes, and then when you're done and you're sprawled out on the mat, breathing heavy, and you can hear your heart beating, it's like, just enjoy that, because there's no phones, there's no one asking you for anything. It's just you with you, and you just sort of disconnect with everything. And I dig that. I like the competitive aspect. They talk about finding a workout program that works for you. To me, it just has everything that I want. I get to lift heavy stuff. I get to run. I get to do a little bit of everything. And it just, to me, especially being in the fire service, does make you better for that. But it just makes you want to be, like I said, in some aspect, a better you. And that's like one of the things that they really preach is like, hey, be the best you that you can be. You might not be, on the same level as some of these other guys, but you're better than you were yesterday. Yeah. And that's what I like. It's like every day you're just sort of slightly improving yourself, and
I mean, it is inspiring, though. I mean, I've never been a huge gym rat or anything like that. I mean, Timmy's throwing around weights that are like 2 times me, plus a half Backstreet Boy, or I don't know, just crazy weight. I mean, weights that are just huge, and sometimes it's kind of intimidating, but actually it kind of gets me out on the back porch, with the little Jane Fonda barbells, doing collectively what I can do to be my best me. But it's impressive. I mean, it's inspiring for sure. And I watched your gains and stuff throughout the last couple of years, and it's mind blowing.
See,
so you're saying you weren't born with biceps like that?
Well, a lot of curls for the girls back in high school. Like, we never really knew when I was in high school how beneficial squatting was. I never really did squats until I was CrossFit. I was like, what the hell are we doing this for? And it's like, oh wow, this is really important.
I did squats. I went to the gym for 6 months before I started going to CrossFit. And I thought the Smith machine was like the best thing in the world. I was like, oh yeah, I could do squats and I don't really have to balance. And it just ruins the whole aspect of a squat with your core and like all your extremities and stuff. So don't use a Smith machine is what I got out of that.
Well, it's the same thing. Like, we're still asking people, like, oh, you go to the gym, like, how much do you bench? But how beneficial is bench press?
Oh yeah, it's retarded, But that's like the one thing we judge people on. It's like, oh yeah, dude, this guy's got a 400-pound bench. It's like,
which is amazing, but
yeah, it's incredible.
Toothpicks for legs,
Yeah, I mean, it just like the thing I like is functional fitness. It's like, well, how the hell is that really going to help you? I mean, yeah, if you have a Volkswagen stuck on you, I could see where that'd be beneficial. But it's like in everyday life, when does that come in handy? And I just dig that you sort of doing stuff that helps you just better at everyday life, and talking with Adam and about his passions and stuff, it gets me inspired, because it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go do this or whatever, and it gets me wanting to try new things, like we talk about, we're gonna go stand up paddleboarding. I can't wait.
Yes,
I want to do that.
Can we come?
Yeah, we're gonna do a big group, man.
I mean, I'm kind of like the opposite. I've always kind of felt like the best training for whatever you're doing is doing that. I mean, I always think it's funny when people do like, oh, I'm gonna go lift weights to be better at baseball. You're like, go play baseball, and yeah, I mean, a lot of my my workouts, I think, are kind of more related to my hobbies. Like, I don't want to get huge. I'm big into surfing, big into snowboarding, and just building that muscle mass just going to make me like hike 10 feet and puke on the side of the mountain. So
exactly.
I've always kind of aimed more for like the, I don't know, 75-year-old Vietnamese man body. Like, no fat, living off of like rice and, you know,
living to 150.
Soybeans. Like hummingbird body. But yeah, I mean, I do different things. I took a piece of oak, fashioned it in kind of like a surfboard shape, and I throw that on a balance ball. And it kind of forces you to stand in like either a surf stance or, you know, still haven't made a snowboard one, so you can get your foot placement and stuff like that and work on your core relative to standing on a plank. But yeah, I mean, all my hobbies, I've always felt better, you know, just training by going and doing it. I mean,
so how long have you been snowboarding / surfing?
Oh, geez.
And how did you get into it?
14 years for surfing. I'd say about 12 years for snowboarding. You're talking soccer, you know, and I graduated high school and I kind of just did that my whole life and was kind of burnt out on it and needed something to do. I mean, I didn't want to just sit around. I mean, you go from playing competitive soccer your whole life to having nothing. You're going to be bouncing off the wall. So I went to play it against sports, bought like completely the wrong board that I shouldn't have been riding. And went down to Newport Beach and got thrown on my face and get sand up my nose for I think probably 20, 25 sessions before I really ever like paddled in and stood up. And then after that, it was kind of, you know, oh, hey, things clicked. And, you know, started getting into, you know, board theory and board design and went and got board shaped. And geez, I got a garage full of surfboards now. I got more snowboards I know what to do with just because of the shapes. And I kind of obsess about it. I get into it and it's just like, you know, a little rabbit hole I go down. But the thing I like about it is you get those moments where, you know, you have that peace and quiet. And the funny thing is it's almost kind of like it's a place where people shouldn't be. You know, I remember I had like this weird Zen moment where it was surfing down in San Clemente. It was a pretty big day. I put about 14 feet, you know, and threw a top turn on this California wave, 14 feet faces. I mean, if you say 14 feet in Hawaii, the island's going to get taken out because they measure the back of the wave. It's a whole machismo thing. But,
machismo.
So, you know, throw a top turn and you're at like the top of a little peak on a moving substance, you know, and there's people on the beach and everything kind of like slowed down, almost stopped. You know, it's still kind of like a weird Zen moment in my life. And I thought to myself, I'm like, this is a weird place for a person to be. And like I look at it like, you know, all the hours of like, got to pick this board and somebody shaped that foam and put fiberglass on it and a storm happened somewhere across around the world and that one wave went all the way how many miles. I'm the guy that gets that wave and throws that top turn right. You have that moment of like, how many things had to come together to do that?
Butterfly
so you really feel,
flaps its wings in Brazil and
and you're
surfing a huge wave in Newport Beach.
You know, and you're a part of that. So I mean, yeah, a lot of my
and you had flow.
Flow, exactly. Flow, thin slicing, or whatever you want to call it. And so I mean, all of my hobbies have just, you know, my fitness has been more just getting out there and doing what it is that I do. Same with snowboarding. I had a buddy that was very influential in that because I surfed first. You get so much muscle memory from that. It's like I think if you surf, I know you can learn how to skateboard like ramps and stuff really easy. Snowboarding came like, you know, duck to water. My buddy was mad about it, you know, because he's like, he took me the first day and I stood up and I'm carving. He's like, how'd you do that? I'm like, it's the same thing, man. It's the same muscles.
I really want to surf. I surfed once in Mexico, but it was on a really, really long board and it was way too easy to be surfing.
It's time and dedication. I mean, you talk about, you know, the whole impossible is nothing. I always kind of looked at it, you know, somebody asked me the same thing in a different way. They said, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Which is, you know, there's a trick answer to that. It's whatever you would want to do, you know. And so I just looked at it and said, I'm going to go learn how to do that, you know. And time and dedication later, it's like, 14 years later, it's, you know, I'm out in the water and, you know so much more about it than somebody who's new. But, you know, it's fun to give people pointers and kind of shortcut that for them.
We need to go surfing.
I'd love to take you guys. It's one of the best things I've ever done. It's definitely changed my life. I was kind of an angry kid out of high school. Still have those moments. I mean, you guys saw that. But
why were you so angry outside of high school?
There's, you know, I mean, part of my dedication getting to where I was because I was tired of going without. You know, you see all these guys, like you said, they had the flashy cars. You know, they were going out on dates and stuff like that, and felt kind of like, you know, I'm tired of having my life be how it is. You know, I want to have the things in my life that I want. You know, and going without, I don't think is healthy for people. You know, not that you need to, you know, absorb yourself in excess, you know, stuff and things and money, and you know, that's not what I'm saying. But I mean, you have those things that, you know, if a material or an object helps you better yourself or getting, like I said, that flow state or something like that, then hey, that's not just an object. You know, it's practically a religious artifact in my mind. You know, my surfboards are, you know, religious vessels as far as I'm concerned. Snowboarding, like I said, my buddy took me in, and it's a different kind of snowboarding I do. I'm big into the backcountry stuff. I mean, you were talking about Travis Rice. You know, that whole scene is just mind-blowing.
Watching his videos, I just get like the chills. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah, talk about somewhere where someone shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking
exactly.
about, we watched Art of Flight, at the station one time during the winter, and Tim was just, blown away, and it's just,
look, this is just insane.
But like you were talking about earlier, with the, the noise and the light pollution and stuff like that, you can find places where you're free from that. It's not hard, it's like you see a hill, you see a mountain, you've got legs, you can walk up it. A lot of people think that they shouldn't for some reason, or that they're not allowed to. It's like, just go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a decision. We've got a goal. My buddy and I, we've got a goal to hit every major peak in Southern California on a good winter, because our snowpack's relative to El Niños and such. But we want to get Baden Powell, Baldy, San Jacinto, San Gorgonio. We want to have descents on all those, and it's a matter of just strapping your snowboard to your back, hiking up, and doing it.
Do you bring your family with you when you go up there?
Not those ones. I've taken my daughter snowboarding. She's only 20 months and she's already riding.
What?
It's crazy.
Yeah, YouTube.
That's awesome.
YouTube. Baby snowboarder, Brooklyn, 20 months.
Oh, it's on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's cool. It's cool stuff. But yeah, no, I don't take him so much on that one. There's a little more of a dangerous aspect of that. My wife doesn't ride good enough yet to do that. I'd like to get her there someday, but
plus it's good to have stuff that's just yours.
Mm-hmm.
And this, being a family man yourself, it's the greatest thing in the world, but there are those times when you just need just you.
You're a better dad when you have something that's your own. No kid wants to look at their dad as just Homer Simpson. It's like, yeah, he eats donuts and brings home a paycheck. It's like, you're a source of inspiration for them. They need something to go, hey, dad's pretty rad,
Yeah. Dad just doesn't sit on his ass all day on the couch and eat potato chips. He gets out and he's active, and like I said, that rubs off, and it's important for them to see. And but like I said, for you and your mental well-being, it's like you go to work and you get hammered all day, with calls or drills or whatever it is, and then if you come home and it's all it is just a continuation, it's the honey-do list, and we need to go here and we need to do that. So some days, there's those days where it's inevitable.
There are days like that where
but it's like there's those days when you need to go, you know what, I'm going to put the honey-do list on hold, and I'm going to go and do this for an hour. I'm going to go for a run for an hour. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go wrench on the car for an hour. I'm going to go do something that's just me by myself decompressing.
Yeah, like this. Just doing a podcast, you're like, I'm just going to do this for myself. And like, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to get out and just do something by yourself or with us,
right,
with a group of guys. And when you actually do it, you feel a lot better. You kind of just get out, take yourself out of, decompress, like you said.
Mm-hmm. So it's like we were talking about the other day. I've always kind of had a fascination of like places where people aren't. So many people, they seek out society and they go, "Where's everybody going? Let's go to Vegas. Let's go to LA." I'm always like, "Where is everybody not going?" I was kind of talking about that same old sailboat that I used to work on. I had like a 9-foot sit-on-top kayak, and I was telling Mikey, friends and family were like, "Oh, what'd you do over the weekend?" I'm like, "I paddled out off of Dana Point during a storm at 3 a.m. Not the brightest of things, but it's like, you're sitting out there on a kayak, lightning's, cracking around you, and you're going, I could very well get killed right now. But, again, there's nobody there, and that energy, you feed off of it. That's the one spot in the world that's just yours at that time.
Yeah.
I've been there too in certain, not there, but in places where I've I've made it here, and how many people could say they've been here. Like that energy and that strength you get from that. Like I did this just because I was curious, or I had a little inkling to do it. Mm-hmm. It's good. I think.
Where do you want to go with your? Because we were talking about this, and I think it's very interesting with the snowboarding, surfing aspect.
Yeah, I had an idea of a company in my mind for a while that, it's still in the planning stage. There's still a whole lot of stuff that I have to. Again, like you said, you got to pull the trigger eventually, and no time's ever right. But there's a lot of stuff that we've identified we have to have started first. Just a company that kind of encompasses, that travel aspect and gear that encourages traveling and safety. It's kind of like a byproduct of the life that I've lived doing what I do. Safety is a huge thing, and my buddy and I's riding capability definitely exceeds our safety. And we were talking about, a couple of years back, we rode that canyon in between Mountain High East and Mountain High West where that ski patroller got killed, and we thought the conditions were safe. We checked the snowpack. He throws one turn and the whole side of the mountain rips loose to pine needles. It's not just a matter of the snow slid, like the snow disappeared, and we're like, okay, we don't know anything. So our goals over the last couple of winters, just kind of gotten busy on stuff, but this year for sure we're going to go get all of our avalanche safety courses, probably even push for like a backcountry guide cert, and start running safety classes, maybe touring classes in the Angeles, depending on the snowpack and if we can do it safely. But at the minimum, having snowboard mountaineering safety classes down here, teaching people how to use avalanche transceivers, how to set up a grid and use your avalanche poles, how to set up your gear, just all the things that we've had to trip, stumble, and fall flat on our faces to learn. Again, that whole shortcut thing, I think we could teach some people some stuff, and the byproduct of that would grow in better safety gear, better backpacks, stuff that just encourages people to get out. Because I get inspired by my gear. I mean, I know it's a little bit materialistic, but if you have a good piece of equipment that facilitates you doing what you do, and getting into that flow state, I mean, it's all important. So
I bought a board, and it was like, I was like, oh, this is the best board in the world. And I bought these bindings. I was like, these are the best bindings. After like 2 runs up there at Mount High, the bindings, like the screws were all stripped, and they were fucking moving when I was on the jumps and going down the mountain. I was like, this is horrible. Like, this is not helping me at all. So I used somebody else's bindings, and I got back on it. But yeah, it's a lot. It's not materialistic. It's kind of just another tool that you're using to do like snowboard.
I think it's like a Sartori thing. You know what Sartori is? It's like the Zen thing between like a samurai and his sword.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like a wrong sword, you're gonna get out there, you're gonna get killed. Where it's like the right one facilitates being a master. So it's there is something to be said for putting into the gear. I mean, even as far as CrossFit goes, I mean, down to your minimalistic shoes. I mean, all the things. I mean, you don't just go, I'm gonna go throw some weights around. You put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah, and to me, I mean, I'm a name brand driven person. I've got no problem saying it, but it's like, I mean, if you want to do something, you want to buy the best of it. You want to, whether it's whatever it is you're doing, there's nothing wrong with that. Even if it's just that to say, oh yeah, no, I've got, a Burton snowboard, or, the Reebok Nano 4s or whatever, whatever the new
those
Gucci
are pretty
thing
cool.
Is, they are really
4s,
cool.
Those are pretty legit.
But it's like, I mean, if that gives you any sort of happiness, man, life is so fucking short, and we've learned that. It's like, whatever's gonna make you happy, it's like, just do it. It's and if that gives you some little ounce of pleasure, then why the hell not? Why skimp on things? Because you end up paying.
People will come up with all these reasons to not go do something. Like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym today because of whatever. It's like, I got buddies that are like, yeah, I don't want to paddle out today. Like, I've never been disappointed when I go surf. Like, I've never had a time where I go, I really regret going out and getting in the water. Same thing. Like, I really regret climbing that mountain and getting that descent. It's people won't say that. So it's like, you find that rule in your head of like, I've never been disappointed when I go and do this. It should encourage you to do it more and more and more.
Yeah.
Well, plus, I mean, they've shown that our bodies are just so much more capable than what our mind thinks. Those days where you're like, I'm freaking tired, I'm not going to be any good at doing anything. And it's like, you get in there and you're like, oh, you surprise yourself. I mean, your mind just limits you in so many ways. And if you could just sort of put that aside and go, all right, fuck, I'm going out, I'm going to do it. You'd be surprised at what happens.
I think I like one of the aspects I like about snowboarding is sometimes like the necessity of it. Like, especially backcountry riding, you'll pick a line that you may never have ridden, and you come across something and you're going, I have to air this section or I'm going to die. You're like, I have to clear this log or I'm going to stop riding and get impaled on a branch. And then it gets you in, like you said, that flow state where it's like, you have to act, you have to function at your highest, and you have to create that outcome.
You have to perform or else you're dead.
Yeah, so that necessity is cool. I mean, relative to, my capability, it's like you watch what Travis Wright's doing. That's way more like ride or die. But
when those guys are up there on like whatever mountain they are, and you have to slide through this tiny little crevice, and then you got to jump over that crevice and then get onto the other side of that peak, and it's like, that's
why that kind of riding is inspired to be like Shaun White and Halfpipe just falls flat for me. It's like, it's so organized, it's so sterile, it's so mass media. It's like,
it's practice. You just practice that same move. Like, he had that huge half-pipe over wherever it was, that he had a foam pit at the end that he just built specifically for the Olympics so that he could better himself for those tricks that he was evolving. And he did like the first ever, whatever it was,
triple cork, I think it was.
Yeah, there you go.
It's gymnastics, dude.
It is.
Inspire me.
So let me turn the tables on you guys, because we're sort of where we strive to be at, and you guys being a little younger. So like, where are you guys going? What's your guys' end game? I mean, you're doing MMA. Like, I mean, when will you turn around and go, wow, I've made it?
Being, because I just quit AMR.
I love that, by the way. Dude,
let's give an 80s slow clap for that.
Like, that impossible is nothing. Like, God bless you for doing that. you're an inspiration to a lot of people, man. I mean, getting out there and going, you know what, I am, like I said, you are burning the boats. There is, you know, you are all in, and it's cool that, you know, I remember talking to you and your parents were totally on board with it, that you have that support system, man. That is awesome, and I'm glad to see that you are taking advantage of it for all that it's worth, because, you know, opportunities like that, they don't come very often. Someone just doesn't go, hey, by the way, we're going to help you out to accomplish your dream. I mean, it would be like someone coming up to me going, hey, Tim, I'm going to fund your CrossFit gym. I'm going to, you know, you can just basically not work ever again, and I'm going to fund your gym, and you go and you just chase your dream. And it's like, wow. You know, so
yeah.
I mean,
well, he's still working. He still works.
Where does he work?
I work at the Dry Town. So.
Oh yeah, well, okay, but I mean, you have a lot more free time.
He got what he needed. I feel like Matt was in a position where he's like, well, I got what I could get out of AMR. I've seen some cool shit. I've seen some crazy stuff that not everybody wants to see, and you kind of were like, all right, this is I need to take the next step to where I want to be.
Yeah, I was definitely getting jaded, and it was putting a lot of black on my soul. And I got in the field because I wanted to help people.
Right.
And I was like, you know, this is so restrictive on what I can do. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm wearing this uniform, and I can only say this, or I can only tell them that, and I want to like help more. The help that I found that I could give was just like listening to people. You know, like
you'd be surprised how much that helps people.
Yeah.
So what's your end game? Where are we gonna see you in 10
right
years?
now? And I'm not, you know, ashamed at all to say this, but it's like almost like a black hole, where not a black hole, but it's like it's unknown. You know, I thought MMA is always going to be part of my life, and that's something I realized I have to do. I have to fight and be competitive in that to stay. That gives me fulfillment and joy and stuff. Right. But the amount I've had 2 months, you know, times where I'm cutting weight. I'm going in the gym twice a day, and I'm doing an extra workout at home that I'm like just pushing myself to my limits. And it's like AMR. It's like, you know, my end goal right now, if like you're saying, I want to be that person.
Oh, he said the company.
We said it earlier.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
He said AMR.
He's not an employee anymore either.
Oh, that's true.
So he could be like, this company, fuck. I'm not gonna say it.
But anyway,
do you have a beep button on this, or is this all coming through? Do you edit it later?
We can.
So.
It says explicit next to the little podcast thing on iTunes.
You guys got an explicit?
Well, we said shit.
I said fuck earlier too.
So. Sorry, dude, I didn't cut you off.
Anyways, no, it's good. But like this podcast and anything, I want to inspire myself by talking to guys like you. I want to be able to do this for the rest of my life and pursue the things that I want to do. I want to be my own self-made man. I don't want anyone to own me. No banks. I'm not getting any kind of debt or anything like that. But I want to set myself up to where in the end, and me and Mikey have talked about this, where we have some kind of non-profit where we're both doing what we love daily, but we get to give back, and we get to like find somebody who's in that struggle, who doesn't have the opportunities I have, where they have to work at a company that they like or they don't like, and they're losing their soul, and then we can come in and be like, you know what do you need?
Yeah,
let's support you so you can follow your dreams.
Maybe not like as extensive as, like you were saying, if somebody could be like, oh, here's your money to fund a gym, don't work anymore, just do this. Like maybe not as extensive of that, or what we could be like, hey, here's this, we talked to this guy, we got this meeting set up with you, like, or just like kind of stuff like that, where you're kind of facilitating somebody that's not qualified.
Well, what I found and what I see is teachers, parents, and anyone, even when like there's so many kids that are going through their life, and the only thing that they know how to be is mediocre. Mm-hmm. No one has told them. Yeah,
that's safe. It's middle of the road. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, don't set that limit on it though, dude. I mean, you guys could very well someday. You know,
well,
if you set that limit on it, that's going to be the limit. If you leave it open to, hey, someday we could fully just be sitting at a table together, going, hey, should we write a check for this guy? I can see it happening. You know, again, it's like grassroots stuff like this. You know, grows to be huge.
Well, I do think that would be awesome. Yeah.
I would love to do that, and that's what I really want to do. I want to help people, and I want people to see that they can achieve their dreams and do that. And that's why I'm still going to pursue fighting. I'm pursuing music. I want to, like, there's so many things that I want to do right now, and it's like it's open. It's open-ended.
That's a beautiful thing, man. It's like, you got like 4 or 5 different forks in the road. It's like, oh, well, I can maybe go a little bit down each one and see which one it's worth it. But when you guys do reach that point when you're writing out checks, just remember from episode 7, hey, Adam wants to start his travel company, and
hopefully
Tim wants to start his gym.
What was the name of that guy that yelled at me about the breakaway flat? Yeah, screw that guy.
I still, I think, hopefully you already started that, and by the time we're there, hopefully you're already above us, and then we can come to you and be like, hey, we want to go here, help us travel.
Well, that's anything. Tim, you're gonna start your gym. I know you are. So.
Someday. I just think because I work a shitload of overtime, and it sucks. It's like a double-edged sword because I love being at work. I love my job. I love the people I work with. They're a second family. Yeah, get all sappy on you right now, start crying. But at that, the flip side of the coin is that you're away from your family. You miss a lot. Of the important stuff. I miss my daughter's first steps. To me, that's like, I got a cool video of it, which is better than absolutely nothing. It's better than 20 years ago when they didn't have that stuff available. But it's like you miss out on a lot. And I was like, man, I am so in love with the CrossFit thing. Like if I could just not quit my job because I love this. I damn near killed myself trying to get it. It's like if I could have that to just to do instead of working. It's like, oh, I can go to the gym. I could bring my family and the dog, and we hang out and teach classes and have this really positive atmosphere where people come in and facilitate change in their life, in more than one way. It's like, this would be really cool. I see the owner of my gym, and there's never a bad day. You come into there and it's like, I get to have access to all this cool stuff, all this world-class training, and equipment. It's like, it's not a bad way to go through life,
Yeah, helping people is really broad, but you could because you can do it in so many ways. Mm-hmm. Matt has his idea. You have your idea of CrossFit. Adam has his idea of building better boards or building better,
like a guide service company. I think is the ultimate goal, because I
Sherpa.
Basically, all around thing.
Because I would have never gotten into what I did if it wasn't for my buddy. And I kind of look at the generation of kids coming up after me. I feel like there's been like a barrier set up of like where you can ride. You can only ride at the resorts, stay safe, stay in the park, and there's that whole realm outside of safety and normal that you can make it safe and you can get out there. And it's still evolving. We'll see what it's going to become. But
I see that in other things. I want to start getting into hunting, and they have like fences, and they just have these animals roam around. You get them in the corner and you shoot a shotgun.
That's
sit in
everything.
Sit in a hut up in a tree with a heater and a 6-pack of beer with a tripod and a high-powered rifle. I'm hunting. No, you're not. No, you're killing.
Yeah, you can hunt whales like that.
So what about
have you guys seen the movie The Blackfish?
No, I haven't
seen it.
That.
I don't want to talk about it on this. We'll talk about it afterwards.
Have you seen The Cove?
No.
I cried.
What's The Cove?
It's okay.
It's about.
Watch it.
Just watch.
Is it a documentary?
The Japanese.
You talk about things that like take a piece of your soul. Like to me, I watched
that was a rough one.
I watched the trailer for that, and I was like, I don't ever want to see anything like that ever again.
It was about whales?
Dolphins. No, it's dolphins.
They learn the Japanese.
Dolphins are so cool, though.
Dolphins are rad, dude.
Watch the trailer and then decide that you'll never want to watch it.
There's a pod of dolphins that migrates south in the morning and migrates north in the afternoon, like where I surf. Yeah. And they will come interact with you. You'll be sitting on your board and they'll come up and look at you.
Really?
There's a guy that caught like a really good right one day, and it was backlit because the sun was going down. And there's two dolphins kicking along behind him as he's surfing. It's mind blowing. I was looking at it going, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
So basically, they just slaughter hundreds of these dolphins in this cove. They lure them into a cove, they close it out, and they just slaughter.
And make what? Food?
Yeah,
they eat them?
I think they sold
dolphin fin soup.
Dolphin fin soup, and then I think they were like falsely marketing the meat as whale.
Oh my God.
I'm not sure. It's shady stuff.
Yeah, well, the Blackfish is
where the
sort
dolphins,
of the same thing.
if there's one of their pod that is hurt, they stick around. They don't flee.
That's what the whale, when they catch, I don't want to, people are going to be like, oh, propaganda and shit, but in the movie The Blackfish, they portrayed it as when the baby whale was taken, the family sat there and like just watched the baby whale being taken, brought up, and they were crying for like hours. So it took like a couple hours before they got off or got the whale on the boat, and then we're actually off. And the whales, the family or the pod of whales, just sat there and cried for that whole time. So it's like if you were kidnapping your daughter or your daughter.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Except they have nothing to do about it. We have guns where we could go and kill somebody. I don't know if we should do that.
It's getting off topic.
How did we get on this topic?
Well, you're just avoiding. You're just avoiding the question. You know, we've all talked about, you know,
what we're doing. Yeah, Timmy was asking you. Come on, Mikey, your turn.
Mikey.
I don't know. Eventually want to own my own business, doing something.
What kind
Maybe
of
a
business?
CrossFit gym. I think owning a.
if you're looking for a partner.
Yeah.
Hello.
You definitely have a lot more money than I do. So just owning, like you said, CrossFit is it's been a big part of my life in the past year or a little over a year, and it really changed my view about fitness and what we actually do. I mean, before I was like 24-hour fitness guy, like going through, I'll do some curls, I'll do some military presses, and then that was it. And then I was always looking for something else. I was always looking for, like, I was on bodybuilding.com looking for like just something else that was actually going to work, because this stuff wasn't working for me. And then I found CrossFit, and it's got everything I think that works best for me.
Right.
I don't think it's best for, I mean,
No.
some people that are like bodybuilding or want to snowboard or surf, it's like maybe it's not the best thing for you, but for me it worked, and I feel like a lot of people can benefit from it.
Oh, yeah.
And the other aspects that come out of it, it's really, like you said, you have the potential to do whatever you want. If you think you like can't do this workout in 10 minutes, over time you probably could.
Right.
You could probably get it in 5 minutes or whatever. Like people's Fran times are like 2 minutes or whatever, and years ago it was like the top time was like 5 minutes. So it just shows how much you can improve over time, and I feel like everybody needs that, to push himself to the limit and then realize that they can go past their limits, and there's really no limits for anybody.
And plus, like, you know, I've sort of touched on the positivity of it. I mean, we're surrounded by so much negativity, you know, at work. You know, people we work with can be negative. You know, you turn on the news and it's just, you know, murder and mayhem. And to go to a place, you know, and not to knock 24-hour fitness or any of these other places, you know what, to me, as long as you're out there and you're doing something to try to improve yourself, God bless you, you know, I mean, and you got to do what works for you. But, you know, I remember like going to LA Fitness, you know, and people are like, you know, they it's like automatically, you know, there's that machismo thing, you know, it's like, oh, look at this guy, you know, oh, his technique's all fucked up, or this or that, you know, or what kind of program is he on, or this or that, you know, whereas like in CrossFit, you know, especially at the gym I go to, the guys that are the best at it, the guys that are you know, the elite athletes at our gym are the first ones to come to you and go, hey man, I saw you were doing this, try doing it this way, you know, and offering their tips or what works for them. You know, there's no like secrets like, oh, you know, I'm not going to tell him because he might become better than me. It's like they want to see you succeed, and it's great because it gives you that positivity, and it's like you need that, man. You know,
you're in one community and you're all trying to achieve whatever goals you have, but the basis of it is fitness or to better yourself at something.
Right. Or even Adam, like you were talking about that, you want to have better gear and spread more knowledge, so more people will be doing what you think is like more awesome, and then that's going to push you to. Like,
I want everyone to feel what I have.
What you guys touched on, though, was the community. It's not that I specifically want to make the gear. It's like I identified there's this group of people that it's like, you know, they're heading in the same direction or relatively the same direction as what I'm doing, and it's like, you know, things aren't being facilitated for that group movement. You know, like we were talking about flow. You know.
And like you yesterday you were talking about how you, like, years ago you could go to a board shop and there was just a couch there and you could just hang out, and it was like such a cool kind of dynamic atmosphere where you could be like, oh, do I want that board? Oh no, I'll watch this skate video for a second.
Right, but you'd sit and you'd hang out with your buddies and you'd talk about boards. You're like, why that one's different than the other one? Hey, have you ridden that one? Yeah, I got that one. Why I liked it, why I didn't like it. I mean, there's that learning there, and I feel like that's kind of gone from board shops.
Exactly.
That
like you go to the,
you know, sit on this smelly old couch and watch the VHS tapes on the old TV. It's like that's gone, and that was part of my other goal too. Is like I wanted to kind of make like a. It's like, look at what you guys have as far as CrossFit. You know, that's a community. It's not just a gym. There's a collective community there, and I wanted to make kind of like a hub for, I don't know, I guess riders in Southern California to come hang out. Not just a board shop, have like a coffee shop. You know, hang out, get coffee, like we're doing right now.
That's awesome.
And push
I think I really like that idea that you mentioned to me. Hopefully nobody steals it.
Yeah,
patent it. I'm just kidding.
If somebody else does it, then hey, fine, cool.
Yeah, but everybody's
I'd just be stoked that it would happen.
It's gone so far away from that people are kind of just they open the shop and it's for money only.
You look at who owns it. That's a big thing too. I mean, why did they open it? I mean, like you said, you're going to talk to the guy from pharmacy. That sounds like a cool story.
That's why I really wanted.
But that's pretty cool that he opened it, because he wanted to, rather than somebody looks at it and goes, well, it looks like snowboarding's a good investment. I'm going to take my these are my dividends, these are my returns. I mean, you turn it into something so money driven. You're like, okay, you just killed it. Yeah,
and that's
dude was 18 years old.
That's cool, dude. That's awesome.
Him and his buddy were like, he said he started out with around $5,000, and that's it. They opened up the shop, and now they have their 7th one opening.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
The other thing is, me and Mike are talking about, we want to continue doing this podcast and continue spreading it because we think it has a very positive message. We also thank you guys for being out here.
It's awesome.
And sharing your story. We want to continue spreading this positivity and then having this podcast and allowing the brand, I guess you could say, to grow so much to where we could travel and talk to more different kinds of people from all walks of the world, from still keeping with the ordinary people to people who are very successful.
And that's what I think is cool, because it's like this is sort of like the ground level of it. It's like, where is it going to go from here? You look at Barbell Shrugged in their early episodes, and now they're flying across the country, talking to everyone and everything that has to do with it. If you guys can, talk to just some of the, get out there and just talk to really cool people. It's like people are going to go, hey, this is neat.
Yeah, one of my goals is that, let's say your lifeblood is CrossFit and you love doing snowboarding or surfing, whatever's in season. And I feel like if we could travel around, okay, let's do a podcast, and then we go actually film me or us doing CrossFit, or film us trying to surf, trying to learn how to surf, just doing what everybody else is like, what their lifeblood is and what they love doing. And I really want that. I just really want to experience whatever, like, you guys get the most enjoyment from life doing what you're passionate about outside of work.
Oh yeah.
And just doing that, I feel like I could gain the most experience, and I would have the most fulfillment in life and have the most fun, and
that's an awesome
just
idea.
Enjoy it.
So we're gonna get that going.
No, that's huge. I mean, I told Tim, when he was telling me you guys were doing this, I was like really excited about it.
Yeah,
that's different. That's new. Like, again, I mean, we didn't have podcast stuff when we were kids, and we just like ran around and poked each other with sticks. It was that end of that archaic generation, and I mean, it's like this is awesome. And we've talked about starting one ourselves. I mean, I got a spot in my garage. Could probably do the same thing. We'll have you guys on it.
Yeah, dude, that'd be awesome. It'd be fun.
That'd be really cool.
It is really cool.
I think that's the end of our podcast today, guys. We really appreciate you coming out. Tim,
thank you, guys.
Adam.
Yeah, thank you for having us on.
I appreciate it, and
you guys are awesome guys.
Yeah,
awesome medics.
Likewise. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
it was a pleasure working with you guys while I did.
Yes, it was.
Well, I can't wait, like I said, to be, I was on that way back in the day. And
I'm on episode 7, and now you guys have someone cool like Dana White or Joe Rogan or some top-level physicist on here talking about cool shit.
That's the goal. That is the goal.
So thank you for thinking so highly of us to have us on.
Yeah,
it really is. It's humbling. So we appreciate it.
All right, guys. Check out the podcast. It'll be up on iTunes later this week. You can also go and look at it on lifebloodpodcast.com or Stitcher if you are
Stitcher.com.
an Android fan. Thank you guys for tuning in. And later this week, we are podcasting with James, who is a travel nurse, all the way from, I believe it's Louisiana?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
One of those guys.
Somewhere on the East Coast.
Awesome guy, but what it's like to travel around and be a nurse and do that in different areas. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in again, and we'll see you next time.
This is the LifeBlood Podcast. Join us on our journey to inspiration.
This is as real as it gets, man.
Think for yourself.